Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. One thing you may not know about me is I love a good cozy murder mystery, and one of my favourite British murder mystery shows is called Midsomer Murders. So I thought it'd be fun to go through an episode of this old TV show and see if you at home can guess who the killer is before the end, because that's what I always do when I'm watching. And where better to start with Midsomer Murders than an episode when Orlando Bloom gets killed with a pitchfork, because, you know, that's how we roll in rural England. For anyone who doesn't know, Midsomer Murders is a British TV show that started in 1997 and has been running for 24 series so far. The show is set in the fictional English county of Midsomer, which is a collection of several idyllic countryside villages, which seem lovely, but ironically they must be the murder capitals of the world, because in every episode there just so happens to be multiple murders in these small villages. So let's move on to the episode we're going to be focusing on today, which comes from Series 3, Episode 3, and the episode is called Judgement Day. This was a double episode, which means that it's longer than a usual episode with a more complex storyline. So let's go through the episode and see if you can guess who the killer is. And with that, let's get started. We start off with a flashback scene to the 1950s. A mother and father are on their way out to celebrate their anniversary, however their really annoying young daughter is acting like a total brat and doesn't want them to go and is being looked after by a nanny. Later we see the girl push over a gross looking dinner, which I can't say I blame her for because look at that, do you want to eat that? The nanny sends her to her room, and then later that night we see a creepy looking shot of someone picking up a knife and stabbing the nanny to death. And it's implied later that the little girl is the one who killed the nanny when we see a bloody knife being held by the girl's toy. And this is murder number 1. Also, just to quickly mention that these toys are called gollywogs and are based on characters from children's books from the early 19th century, and they used to be quite popular. However, due to their racist nature, they are no longer used or acceptable. We're then back to modern day, which in this case means 1999 when this episode came out, and we're in the idyllic village of Midsomer Mallow. There's a village council meeting and we find out that Midsomer Mallow is competing in the Perfect Village competition. We then learn that one of the judges of this Perfect Village competition is none other than the wife of the main police officer of the show, Detective Chief Inspector or DCI Tom Barnaby. And his wife Joyce won a competition and the prize was to be a judge of this Perfect Village competition. Which sounds like a bit of a crappy prize, to be honest. I'd rather just have the money, but Joyce seems to be pretty happy about it. Inspector Barnaby tells us that there's been a spate of burglaries in Midsomer Mallow recently, which is when we then meet a very young-looking Orlando Bloom, whose character is called Peter Drinkwater. Yes, that is the character's actual name. Peter is shown to be a bit of a bad boy, lying in bed with his apparent girlfriend in the very romantic setting of what looks like an abandoned haunted house. Peter leaves and meets up with another young man and they're off to rob a house. During the night, they break into a house and steal everything in sight, including this very ancient-looking computer. Can you imagine being a thief back in the 90s and having to lug around these massive computers? They must have had terrible backache. Anyway, as they're robbing the place, we see a creepy-looking old person watching them through a crack in the door, but the robbers don't see them. The next day, DCI Barnaby and his partner, Detective Sergeant or DS Gavin Troy, arrive, and we find out that the house belongs to a famous retired actor called Edward Allardyce, who claims that he was in London and wasn't in the house at the time of the robbery. He also says that he lives alone after his wife died in a car crash years before. Edward says that he got home late and he saw a white van drive past. He also mentions that no one knew he was going to London apart from maybe Ray the Butcher, who he may have mentioned it to. We're also shown that Edward has some of the same offensive children's toys that we saw earlier. Barnaby and Troy notice some tyre marks outside the house which are turning in the opposite direction to what Edward said, so they think that Edward is lying.
So he is lying?
Obfuscating.
I like the word obfuscating and I want to start a petition that we should use it more. The police go and see Ray the Butcher because they assume he knows a lot about the village, and he points them in the direction of Peter Drinkwater, who he says is a bit of a troublemaker. We also see a young man in the background, Ray's son, Jack, who is the same young man who was Peter's accomplice during the robbery. And some of you may recognise this actor. His name is Tobias Menzies, and he played Prince Philip on the Netflix show The Crown, among other things. And there's a not so subtle moment where the butcher gives a possible motive for why he wants Peter gone.
I wish he'd never come here. Sometimes I want to...
What?
Nothing.
We then see Peter in bed with a different woman, Laura Brierley, the wife of Gordon Brierley, the village vet. And she appears to pay Peter for his, services. So I guess Peter is not only a bit of a Casanova, but he's also a robber and part-time escort, which is quite the side hustle. But it seems like the two of them don't get on very well, and Laura threatens to tell Peter's girlfriend that he's sleeping around. As Peter is leaving this love nest, we see that Laura's husband is lurking around, and it's assumed that he knows what his wife has been up to. We then see Peter's girlfriend from earlier, Caroline, being told off by her parents who don't want her seeing Peter because he's bad news, and the dad ominously says that he's going to have a talk with Peter.
Maybe I should go and have a talk with him. Just the two of us, mano a mano.
No, Daddy, no.
Does anyone else find it weird when grown-ups call their father Daddy? Just as Caroline storms out, she meets the weird vet's wife, Laura, who says that she wants to talk to her about Peter. Barnaby finds out that Peter has a previous criminal record for shoplifting and also assault, and Troy says that he managed to track down the white van that Edward mentioned earlier. And the white van belongs to the butcher, Ray. We then see Peter on a farm where he's staying, stuffing some loot into a bag, while someone picks up a pitchfork that looks like it came from medieval times. And after some research, I found out that this is actually a hay fork, not a pitchfork. Who says that the internet isn't educational? There's then a knock at the door, which Peter answers, and then... So there's murder number 2. The police get there too late and they find Peter's body, and the medical examiner says that the person who stabbed Peter to death must have been very strong in order to stab him that hard, so they assume it must have been a man. They also find a credit card under Peter's body, which belongs to Gordon Brierley, which is the weird vet that we met earlier, whose wife was having an affair with Peter. The police speak to the butcher's son, Jack, and he confesses that he was involved in the robberies with Peter, but he told Peter that they were doing too many and they had to stop, but Peter wouldn't listen, and everyone in the village hated Peter. They question Ray the butcher, and they suspect that Ray may have gone to see Peter because they saw his van earlier in the day. But Ray says that he was just doing deliveries and he didn't stop at the farm where Peter was murdered. But he did see a red car pull out of the farm, which belongs to Marcus de Vere, the father of Caroline. You know, Daddy.
No, Daddy, no.
Barnaby's daughter Cully comes to visit, and Barnaby's wife Joyce tells him about the other judges for the Perfect Village competition, and mentions that one of the judges had to pull out at the last minute and is being replaced. The police then go and question Marcus de Vere, who is the owner of the red car. And there's a funny moment where they point out that the house is called Lothlorien, which is from Lord of the Rings. Even though technically speaking it's spelt wrong and it should be an EN at the end rather than AN, yes, I'm a spelling freak and I googled it. But the funny thing is that this episode was filmed just before Orlando Bloom was going to film Lord of the Rings, so this reference can't just have been a coincidence. Anyway, back to the episode, and the police question Marcus, who lies at first, but then admits that he did go and see Peter at the farm, but Peter wasn't there. And his wife, Bella, was napping at home at the time. Marcus also says that as he was leaving the farm, he saw Ray, the butcher, drive past him in the white van, smoking out of the window. The police also interview Peter's ex-girlfriend, Caroline, who says that she wanted to kill Peter when she found out that he had been sleeping with Laura, but someone did it for her. There's then yet another village council meeting. I mean, how many council meetings can you have? And they discuss whether they should still go ahead with the Perfect Village competition after the murder. Not because anyone is sad about Peter's death, but because they think it will ruin their chances of winning. What a lovely bunch of people. But they ultimately decide to go ahead with the competition. The police return this ancient-looking computer to Edward, and they question whether he was telling the truth about no one being in the house on the night of the robbery. Edward doesn't answer and tells them to leave, and then he appears to talk to someone off camera who we don't see. We meet the judges of the Perfect Village competition, which consists of a rather unpleasant woman named Rosemary, who is the editor of Country Matters magazine. Don't you just love a retro car phone and a questionable 90s haircut? There's also a very flamboyant gardening TV show presenter named Frank, as well as an author named Samantha who is slamming back some Irish coffees at a train station. Some of you may recognise this actress as Josephine Towson, who played Elizabeth in the sitcom Keeping Up Appearances, which is another classic British TV show from the 90s, and I highly recommend it. Anyway, it seems that none of these judges actually want to be there, and I can kind of understand why. The police find a report that makes them question whether Edward's wife really died in a car crash like he had said earlier. They go and question Laura, the vet's wife, and confront her about her affair with Peter, which they found out about from Caroline. But Laura denies killing Peter. Her husband Gordon comes home and also denies killing Peter, and says that he was operating on a cat at the time and his wife was with him. The police leave, and Laura asks Gordon why he lied about his whereabouts and asked where he really was on the day of the murder. Gordon then makes it clear that Laura needs to stop asking questions and needs to stick to his side of the story. Barnaby's daughter Cully finds out that Edward Allardyce is involved in the case, and she asks if she can interview him as part of a book that she's writing about the theatre and famous actors. And Barnaby seems all too happy to set up a meeting between his daughter and the suspect in a murder inquiry. And the Father of the Year award goes to... Laura finds some blood-stained clothes in her husband's wardrobe and confronts him about it, and his response is really convincing.
Is it animal blood?
Oh, yes. It's animal, all right. Nasty little creature. It's all right now. Put it out of its misery.
It's now the day of the Perfect Village competition, and the judges will be arriving soon, and the villagers call it Judgement Day. Don't you just love it when TV shows sneak in the title of the episode? They're setting up a cute little village party with food and drink while waiting for the judges, and I don't know what that food is, but all I know is that I want it. Gordon acts like a total weirdo and asks his wife if she's missing Peter, and then gives her a necklace that he says belonged to Peter, implying that he was there when Peter died. The judges then arrive, and Bella DeVere says that she thinks she saw someone stealing a bottle of wine inside the tent and walks off to investigate. Barnaby's daughter Cully interviews Edward, who is reluctant at first, and then afterwards the two of them walk into town. We then see someone inside Edward's house with a disfigured hand who finds Cully's tape recorder, and then just like a cat looking for attention, they swipe it off the table. Back to the village party, and Samantha, who's somehow still standing after knocking back all of that booze, looks like she's seen a ghost. And when Joyce asks her what's wrong, it sounds like Samantha said she saw someone in the street and it shocked her. The camera then flashes to Edward, who is standing in the street. Samantha asks for yet another drink, which Bella pours out for her, but on the way, Rosemary the judge takes the drink off the tray instead and drinks it, but says that it's awful and puts it back. A few moments later, Bella starts spacing out like she's on a bad acid trip and falls over, but she's still breathing. Rosemary also falls to the floor, but it turns out that she's dead. That's murder number 3. As you may have guessed, they discover that the wine that Rosemary drank had been poisoned with cyanide, which is why her skin is almost as pink as her very fetching outfit. Bella also drank the poisoned wine, but she survived. Laura starts to suspect that her husband did it because of the blood-stained clothes that she found earlier, and she calls him out in front of everyone. But Barnaby suspects that Rosemary was not actually the target of the poison. They speak to Bella, who is at home recovering, and she says that she saw a man taking a bottle of wine, which is why she went back inside the tent, but she didn't see who it was. Bella then suggests that she must have been the intended target of the poison and someone wants her dead. We're then back at the vet's house, and he says that he didn't actually kill anyone and he was just trying to make his wife jealous, and the necklace was not actually Peter's.
I wanted you to believe I had killed him. I wanted you to think I'd had the strength to shove a fork into him. It amused me.
Is anyone else getting real sociopath energy from this guy? The The police deduced that Samantha, the judge that drinks a lot, was likely the intended target for the poison, even though no one knew she was going to be there because she was a last-minute replacement judge. We then see Samantha in her hotel room asking reception to find her a phone number for somewhere in Gloucestershire. There's a knock at the door which Samantha goes to answer. By the time the police arrive to question Samantha, they find her stabbed to death in her hotel room, making that murder number 4. They're literally dropping like flies in this episode. Barnaby asks his wife Joyce some questions about Samantha because she was the last person to speak to her. Joyce reveals that Samantha had said she saw someone in the street during the party, which frightened her.
I'm not all right. I just seen someone in the street.
And Samantha had previously been psychiatrically sectioned after she tried to take her own life, and she had spent some time at a psychiatric hospital in Gloucestershire. Okay, so we're now getting very close to the conclusion of this episode. Before I reveal who the killer is, take a guess as to who you think it is. Is it A. Caroline, Peter's ex-girlfriend who he was cheating on? B. Marcus de Vere, Caroline's daddy? C. Bella de Vere, Caroline's mummy? D. Edward, the shifty retired actor whose house was burgled by Peter? E. The person with the disfigured hand? F. Gordon, the sociopath vet? G. Laura, Gordon's wife who is having it off with Peter? Or H. Ray the butcher whose son was involved in the robberies with Peter? Take a moment to think about your answer, and once you've watched the conclusion, let me know in the comments if you got it right. Okay, so now let's get on with the conclusion. The police go to the psychiatric hospital in Gloucestershire where Samantha had been a patient, which is called Sebden Manor. They find out from the manager that Samantha was there for a while and she had become close with another patient called Annabelle Weston. And it turns out that Annabelle Weston was the little girl we saw at the beginning of the episode in the flashback who stabbed her nanny. Do you remember that? The manager also says that a lot of patients refer to the hospital as the retreat because it sounds nicer. And this is when Inspector Barnaby has his aha moment and they speed off in the car. In the meantime, Cully goes back to get her tape recorder that she left behind at Edward's house. As Cully is walking around Edward's house, we see the person with the disfigured hand pick up a knife. However, it's revealed that this person is actually Edward's wife. She had been a beautiful actress that was disfigured in a car accident many years ago, and because of that she hid herself away and Edward told everyone that she was dead, you know, as you do. So this means that this whole part of the storyline was a total red herring. So the climax of the episode happens when Barnaby and Troy arrive at Marcus and Bella de Vere's house, who are Caroline's parents, aka Mummy and Daddy. The two of them confront Marcus, and Barnaby says he knew that Marcus was lying when he said he had seen Ray the Butcher smoking out of the window of his van as he left Peter's farm, because, get this, Ray was driving in the opposite direction, and so the driver's side would be facing away from the farm, which means that Marcus would not have been able to see him smoking. And this seemed like a massive reach to me, but let's carry on. Barnaby then surmises that Marcus was covering for someone, which must be his wife Bella, which is short for Annabelle. You know, the little girl who killed her nanny at the beginning of the episode for no apparent reason. Marcus says that Bella isn't there, but he admits that he knew about his wife's history, but he loved her anyway. He also said he knew Bella had killed Peter because she was worried that her daughter might marry him. And we get this great flashback of this very prim and proper looking woman stabbing Orlando Bloom with a hay fork. Even though they originally said that it was probably a man who did the stabbing because they would need to be really strong, maybe it's just me, but this woman doesn't look like she's that strong, but who knows, maybe she's secretly the She-Hulk. Anyway, we find out that when Samantha said she had seen someone on the street and it frightened her, what she actually said was she saw someone from the retreat, which is the nickname for the psychiatric hospital. Bella had recognised Samantha from their time at the hospital together, and she had no idea that Samantha was going to be a judge at the competition. And Bella was worried that Samantha would reveal her secret about her past, you know, killing the nanny who makes gross food. So Bella made up that she saw someone stealing a bottle of wine so that she could go back inside the tent, and then she slipped some poison into one of the bottles. Bella then saw the opportunity to poison Samantha by pouring her a drink of the poisoned wine, and she also poisoned herself in the process to make herself look innocent. But Rosemary unintentionally ended up drinking the poisoned wine instead, so she died instead of Samantha. Are you following this so far? So then Bella had to finish off the job, which is why she went to Samantha's hotel room later and stabbed her to keep her secret hidden. Marcus said he knew nothing about Samantha, but he suspected that his wife was responsible for all the deaths, and he knew what he had to do. Barnaby asks where Bella is, and Marcus says that she is upstairs, but he ominously says that she isn't here anymore. Barnaby and Troy rush upstairs, and they find that Bella is dead in bed. Oh, that rhymes. Her husband admits to poisoning her, then smothering her with a pillow because he didn't want her to have to go back to prison because it would destroy her. My god, what a touching end to this lovely, cozy British murder mystery. So there you go, the killer is unmasked, and it was Bella all along. Did you guess the killer correctly? And if not, who did you think it was and why? Let me know in the comments. In terms of my opinion about this episode, overall I thought it was a pretty good episode of Midsomer Murders, and there were enough red herrings to keep you guessing who the killer was. I liked that it was a double episode, which meant that the storyline was a bit more complex. But ultimately, I felt like the plot was perhaps a bit too convoluted in parts. But the ending is perhaps a little bit unsatisfying because the killer was already dead and the police don't get to do the big confrontation. I also felt that it was a bit unrealistic that Bella was strong enough to pitchfork Orlando Bloom to death as well as get away with all the other murders. It's also never really explained why she killed her nanny as a child. I mean, that food did look gross, but I don't think that's quite reason enough for murder. But I still enjoyed the episode, so overall I would have to give it 4 out of 5 WhatTheMatt stars. Let me know in the comments what you would rate this episode. And also let me know if there are any other episodes of Midsomer Murders that you'd like me to make a video about. If you'd like to get early access to my videos as well as other benefits, please consider subscribing to my Patreon. It just costs a few dollars a month and it really helps support my channel, and I'll leave a link to that in the description. Please make sure you like and comment on this video to help tell the algorithm this is a great video, and please make sure you subscribe to my channel because it really does make a huge difference. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you again in a future video. Thank you, bye!